All right, ready to dive in. Today we're tackling what it really takes to thrive as a remote technical writer. And we're ditching the hype, folks, going straight for the practical stuff.
Love it.
Our source. A fantastic article, Tips and Tricks for Remote Tech Writers, by Curt Robbins, a senior tech writer himself.
Oh, I've heard of him.
Published just this month, September 2024, so it's piping hot. We even have a comment from one of his readers to add to the mix.
Nice.
You know, what strikes me right off the bat is how Curt doesn't shy away from the good, the bad, and the ugly of remote work.
Yeah, he lays it all out there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He even admits his own bias towards it, which, I don't know about you, but instantly makes me trust him more.
Totally. It's like, okay, you get it. You've been there.
Right. And before he even gets into the nitty-gritty tips, he sets the stage, talks about the why. Like, did you catch that quote he pulls from the Y Combinator co-founder?
Refresh my memory.
He basically says that with remote work, recruiting bottlenecks practically disappear.
Whoa.
Yeah. Think about the implications there.
Companies are practically tripping over themselves to find remote workers.
Exactly. So suddenly it flips the script. You have more power, more options.
You're not just competing with people in your city anymore.
It's a global talent pool.
Which means you have leverage, better pay, better benefits.
You're not just working in your PJs anymore. You're shaping your career on your terms.
Okay, that's a game changer.
Right.
Yeah.
But to your point, let's get into those practical tips, because Curt doesn't just leave us hanging with the why of it all.
He's got the how, too.
And this is where his experience working with both Fortune 500 companies, A&D, smaller clients, really shines through.
Best of both worlds.
Totally. One thing that really resonated with me was his honesty about distractions at home. He straight up says that remote work isn't for everyone.
It takes a certain personality type, that's for sure.
It's so easy to get sucked into that Netflix black hole when you're just a room away.
Or the fridge.
Oh, don't even get me started on the fridge.
Snack breaks every hour.
The struggle is real. But for those who are up for the challenge, he's got some pretty unique solutions. Remember that part about the basement?
The basement. Wait, yeah, his whole thing about making it a productivity haven.
Like, who would have thought your basement could become your secret weapon?
It's kind of brilliant when you think about it.
Oh.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Right. And speaking of focus, Curt's also a big advocate for a dedicated workspace. He even suggests something as simple as a standing desk, but not for the reasons you might think.
Oh, yeah, he had that whole thing about webcam angles, right?
Yes. It's like he's uncovering these secret productivity hacks, like who knew your desk height could affect your video calls?
It's all connected, and he even breaks down specific standing desk brands.
Right.
He even throws in a budget-friendly option.
Talk about practical advice.
He walks the walk, and then he dives into dual monitors, which, I'll be honest, I was a little skeptical about at first.
Really? What changed your mind?
Well, he breaks down the cost, right, and it suddenly feels less like a luxury and more like a smart investment.
Especially with those 4K monitors he mentions for under $300.
See? That's what I'm talking about. Value for your money.
And speaking of value, his advice on webcams completely blew my mind. He actually says, don't waste money on a 4K webcam.
Wait, what? Seriously?
I know, right? Sounds crazy. But he has a really solid reason for it. Most video conferencing platforms don't even support that kind of resolution yet.
Oh, that's right. I totally forgot about that.
So you could be shelling out all this cash for a feature you can't even use.
Good point.
Okay.
So what does he recommend instead?
Good lighting. He even suggests specific LED lamp brands. He's all about maximizing impact, even on a budget.
I like his style. Getting the most bang for your buck.
Exactly. And this is where that reader's comment we mentioned comes in. They talk about how much more productive they are now that they have a dual monitor setup.
See? Real world proof.
It's one thing to hear it from the expert, but when you have someone backing it up with their own experience, that's powerful.
For sure. It's like, okay, this stuff actually works.
Right. It got me thinking, you probably have a work setup already, but is it ideal?
That's a good question.
What one thing, based on what we've talked about, could make the biggest difference for you?
That's something to ponder. It's easy to get caught up in the tech, though, you know. But Curt doesn't stop there. He gets into the mindset stuff, which is huge.
So true. I was just thinking about that. He made this point about discipline and structure that hit me like a ton of bricks. It's way too easy to get derailed at home.
Right, like trying to get work done in a video game arcade.
Exactly. And he uses this great analogy of a Marine cadet. Like, that's the level of self-discipline you need to really kill it in a remote environment.
Intense. I love it. But he doesn't just leave you hanging with be disciplined. He actually gives you strategies.
Oh, yeah, he walks you through it.
Yeah.
Noise-canceling headphones, dedicated workspace, even embracing the basement, if that's your best bet. He covers it all.
And don't forget about those little creature comforts he mentions.
Oh, those are crucial.
Like a good chair, good lighting, even just a special coffee mug. These little things add up.
Absolutely. They can make or break your experience. It's about creating an environment where you're not just working, but you're thriving.
100%.
And I love how he talks about personalizing your space with things like plants and art.
It's your real haven.
Exactly. You're curating your own vibe. It all ties back to his point about remote work not being one size fits all.
You have to know yourself.
Right. What works for one person might be a disaster for another. So he's really challenging you to ask yourself, is this truly for me?
It's a valid question. Not everyone is cut out for this.
No, not at all. And that's okay. But for those who are, he lays out a roadmap to make it work. He even talks about how, when done right, remote work can lead to a better work-life balance.
Isn't that the dream?
It is. That sweet spot of productivity and fulfillment no matter where you are.
And it takes me back to that reader's comment about the dual monitors, how such a small change made a huge difference in their productivity.
Totally. Imagine if they'd figured that out sooner.
Right. Time is money.
That's the beauty of Curt's approach, though. He's all about those small, incremental improvements that add up to big results over time.
It's not about overhauling your entire life.
Exactly. It's about spotting those little friction points and tackling them head on. It's about being smart, right? Working smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
And this article's like a cheat sheet.
Totally. And it goes beyond the basics, too. Like, remember how Curt talks about those creature comforts?
Oh, yeah.
Things that maybe seem like, little luxuries.
Right.
But they actually make your workday way more enjoyable.
And productive.
Exactly. Like, what's the point of having all this flexibility if you're miserable?
So true. It's about investing in yourself a little bit.
100%. Whether that's a really good office chair or maybe you're a coffee snob like me and you need a whole setup.
Whatever it takes.
Or even just like some nice art on the wall, something to make you happy.
It's your space, right? You got to make it yours.
Exactly. And the cool thing is, like Curt showed us with the dual monitor thing, it doesn't have to be super expensive.
Right. He found a way to upgrade his whole setup without breaking the bank.
Being strategic.
It's about finding those little tweaks that make a big difference.
And I think that brings us back to what we've been talking about this whole time. Thriving as a remote technical writer, it's not about checking boxes.
It's not a one-size-fits-all thing.
Right. It's about constantly learning and adapting and figuring out what works best for you.
Finding your groove.
Exactly.
Because what works for me might be totally different for you.
Night and day.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, here's a little something to think about. If you could wave a magic wand and create your dream remote work setup,
Ooh, I like this.
what would be that one thing, that one element, big or small, that would make the biggest difference in your productivity and just how much you enjoy your work?
That's a great question to leave people with.
Right. Food for thought. Well, on that note, we'll wrap things up here. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive, found it useful.
Until next time.
Keep exploring, keep experimenting, keep finding what works for you, and we'll catch you in the next episode.